So, Rotus, is this like a Q&A? I'm asking you the questions?
Yes, please.
All right, okay. He's a vagabond.
Critical focus on the Nigerian economy. We see the bigger picture. Business Express on Smooth 98.1.
Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's Zibby here, and this is Business Express. I've got Rotus joining me this morning. Hello, Rotus. Good morning.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers out there. Good to be with you all again. I think for some, it's back to work. For some, maybe they're still on holiday.
And for some, it's back to the petrol queues, unfortunately.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Okay. So if you've got a question or a comment, you want to be a part of the conversation, just send us a message. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. So, Rotus, now reports are saying that the Naira gained as its demand slowed this Christmas season.
Yes, so we've seen the Naira appreciate to about 745 to 745, 750 to the US dollar, which has, it's come off some of those lows where it was about 770, 780. It's primarily due to a bit of easing of demand during this festive period. So you haven't seen the kind of spikes that we saw when the central bank announced that there would be, that change in the Naira notes, which that deadline is still, as far as the viability or the use of the old Naira notes, that deadline is still coming at the end of January. And then those withdrawal limits that were put in place and then changed later on. So it's a bit of demand just coming down just a bit during this period. That's why we're seeing, or at least on the parallel market, right. Official market is still at, I think, 435 or 440 or so. But not many pay attention there. So for the parallel market, a bit of demand waning. That's what we're seeing.
Okay, so that is some form of good news, but is this something, can this appreciation be maintained really?
Yeah, that's the question. I don't think it can, because there are a number of demand touch points that we're going to see, rear their ugly heads again once the festivities are over. And technically, well, some are still on holiday, I guess, but then things should resume this week. If not this week, then probably next week. When you look at the demand for the currency, there are some certain peak periods that happens. So as far as what we're seeing now, I don't think it's going to be maintained. I think the pressure will probably come back in a matter of weeks.
All right, so let's talk about currencies that are not doing too well around the world. So is the Ghanaian cedi really the world's worst performing currency at the moment?
Depends on how you look at it, Zibby. So yeah, the cedi has performed terribly. It's down, I think, about 45 odd % so far this year. However, if you use the official rate for the Naira to look at where things were at the beginning of the year and where they are now, the Naira probably has depreciated only about 5, 6, 7%. But at the parallel markets, you've seen the Naira fall as much as 40, 45%, almost to the same degree as the CD. So the CD, the Sri Lankan rupee, remember Sri Lanka defaulted on its loans. Actually, Ghana kind of technically defaulted on its loans as well. But if you use the fall in the parallel market, then the Naira really is up there as far as its own fall is concerned. So it's just a matter of playing with numbers and using whether you want to use the official rates or the parallel market rate. But the Naira's fall is way up there.
Okay, back to the Naira. Are there any new pressures that await the Naira in 2023, which is literally a few days away?
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to, there's been the school fees with folks that are resuming school in the new year. Probably, I don't know how many people came down here for festivities, for concerts, and so on and so forth. But when they are heading back to where they are going, there might be some pressure. I'm not really sure if those that are traveling, much pressure will come from there. But really, for folks, school fees, folks who are heading out, maybe to some degree, folks who are traveling back home, maybe. Then you've also got traders, people who want to resume trading trading businesses, as far as those who want to buy things overseas and then sell them here. Then you've got medical tourism that might resume in the new year. Although when you get sick, whether it's a holiday or not, you want to move out. So those pressures are what's waiting the Naira when, of course, the new year resumes in full swing. And then, of course, there's still the January deadline for the notes, the old notes that will no longer be in circulation. So you might still see that pressure there. So there are some that are waiting in Naira, yeah.
All right, so I want to ask this, Rotus. What role does the dollar play exactly in keeping fuel subsidies where they are?
Yeah, so when we talk about removing fuel subsidies, and in particular allowing other players in the downstream sector to be able to import fuel outside of the NNPC, the role the dollar plays has to do with the exchange rate at which imported refined fuel is brought into the country. The NNPC, since it's an arm of government, is able to bring in fuel at the official exchange rate of 435, 440. If you remove subsidies and you say the downstream sector is deregulated, then other players, if you are an oil marketer, I'm an oil marketer, we're not the NNPC. If we have to go and bring in fuel from overseas, we're not getting it at the exchange rate. We have to bring it in at 745, 750. So we would also be putting pressure on the currency, because we would all be demanding for FX to bring it in, and we'll be bringing it in at a higher rate, which means that when we eventually sell fuel, we would be selling the refined petrol at a much higher price. And so that's something the government keeps thinking about when it comes about removing subsidies and deregulating the downstream sector. That definitely would have a role. So you would see fuel become much more expensive because of the cost at which oil marketers are having to bring it into the country without that shield of the official exchange rate. Okay.
I want to talk about unified currency. This is something that the African Union has been talking about all around for a while. What is the major benefits of having a unified currency across Africa?
Yeah, if you look at the euro and you see the countries in the euro that all use the same currency, your France, your Germany, and other nations, being able to trade is the main thing. So you can imagine traveling to one African country or the other and having to, use dollars to change your Naira into dollars and change your dollars into whatever currency they're using, whether it's the CD or the Rwandan franc or whatever. If you had one particular currency, then you would be able to trade easily. I mentioned traders earlier, putting pressure on the currency because they buy things overseas and sell. if you had one unified African currency, then trade becomes much easier, and even tourism becomes easier, because if you and I travel, then we know we're using one particular currency across the board. So that's the main thing, especially when you factor in the African continental free trade area, would be to make facilitate easier trade and cross-border payments and sending money and stuff like that.
You're listening to Business Express right here on the Smooth Breakfast. Rotus is still speaking about this unified currency. What has actually prevented this African currency from becoming a reality?
Yeah, so the thing is, independence of central banks. If you look at the European Union, they have the ECB, the European Central Bank, that dictates monetary policy across the entire continent. So the Central Bank of Nigeria would lose its independence. The Bank of Ghana would lose its independence. You wouldn't be able to dictate monetary policy for your own country. You would now be subject to the entire continent and one particular central bank controlling everything. There's also the issue of Francophone countries whose currencies are pegged to the euro. And so they don't want to join in because they are enjoying currency strength that is backed by the strength of the euro, where for their own particular trading. So there's been that distortion there, where not everybody's on the same page because of selfish reasons. So that's been one of the main headaches, is losing central bank independence, and also, having to also lose the shield for some of those francophone currencies of the euro backing them as well. So that's something, because now the entire currency would rise and fall as one, and everybody would be impacted by that. Okay,
can we talk about cryptocurrency just a bit?
Yeah.
Now, some people believe that cryptocurrencies could actually be the answer to Nigeria, or maybe even Africa's currency woes. Do they have a point?
To some extent, they have a point with respect to cross-border payments, in that if you think about sending money back and forth, using crypto would make things sort of uniform, and maybe to some extent, maybe for trade, but yeah, so that's it. It's as far as trade is concerned and cross-border payments, that's where the point lies. But there are a number of points that are against it with respect to crypto. So I suppose we can get it. Yeah, exactly. So volatility, right? Bitcoin, for instance, has lost about 60% of its value this year. It had a high of, I think, $69,000 in November of 2021. It's now just above $16,000 in 2022, where we are now. There have been the scandals with FTX, 3 Hours Capital, Luna, a number of other coins that have collapsed and have affected the faith in cryptocurrency. So they are too volatile. Their value has been impacted by their volatility. And so if you are a trader depending on using cryptocurrencies for moving money around or payments, there's an issue. And then there's also the speed at which to convert. Can you use crypto to, buy groundnuts or take a bus ride? There's all these things about the issue with being able to payment. So those are the main things working against it as far as crypto adoption is concerned, for wide use across the African continent. And then central banks like Nigeria have banned its use in its financial system. So that's even another problem.
So do you think crypto generally gets a bad rep?
It does, but then it is a justified bad rep, because this year was really ugly. The collapse of Luna, the fraud behind FTX, the scams that are still out there as far as crypto scams are concerned. Crypto needs more regulation. More regulation needs to happen in order for cryptocurrency to be able to be more adopted and for more people to trust it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rotus. That's all the time we have this morning on Business Express.
Thank you. I guess I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
All right. And that's it for Business Express. Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on Smooth Breakfast. Where's that my voice? Oh, gosh.
With critical focus on the Nigerian economy, we see the bigger picture.
Can you get Miriam? Yes.
Okay. 98.1. Stay tuned.